Well, it's now time we go straight to the papers and see what the paper has for us this awesome Friday morning. And for review today, we have 6 papers. We have the Vanguard, the Punch, the Guardian, Daily Sun, Daily Trust, and the Nation will be wrapping things up. But you do know I always enjoy starting with the Punch, and let's see what the Punch has as a major one on its front page. And on the front page of the Punch this morning, the lead story reads, 36 speakers back state police. Final test begins and riders to follow. Speakers vow to prioritize state police bill as assemblies brace for debate. And a new state police bill broadens police council, admits NBA and NLC and rights panel and others. And Allah commends National Assembly over passage of state police bill as Kano Assembly meets governor. But I'll tell you to get more of that juicy gist on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. And anyway, we'll see on the Punch newspaper, and let's see if we take some other leading ones. CBN orders banks to free 6 terror suspect accounts. And remember, I'll be looking at this critically later on Dialogue. We'll be having other person, but Barrister Godwill Ojigba helping us to understand the legal angle of it. But get that story up on page 25. Lagos building collapse, death toll hits 8, 26 rescued on page 4 and 5. Tinubu vows safe return of adopted Oyo peoples and students is still a reminder on page 9. But the picture of the day and the story also on page 9 is 188 dead as 1,500 injured in Venezuela earthquake disaster. Remember, they were hit with 2 earthquakes, 40 seconds in between. The second one was even having a 7.5 magnitude, and indeed it was more of a disaster. But that's much we can take from the Punch newspaper. Let's quickly run to the Guardian to guide us through what the dailies are also saying. And on the Guardian this morning, the lead story reads, posers over ex-governors push for legislative seats. It's more of a big story, and you can get that big story on page 4 and 5. And still on the front page of the Guardian, high petrol price persists as Nigeria faces $11.5 billion crude oil lost. Is a story I tell you not to lose on page 3. Power debts row deepens as Gencos challenge ministers' 50 billion payments claim. And you can also get that story up on page 3. But a story on page 7 is, appeal call to hear ADC other suits against deregistration, and that will happen in July. But anyway, what's happening right here is us taking the dailies and getting all the juicy G's to follow. And yes, more to follow. INEC yet to get 2027 election funds 21 days to deadline. It's a screamer on page 6. CBN freezes account linked to terrorism financiers seek enhanced monitoring. It's also on page 5. Atiku, PRP, Falana raised concern as Labour Party Afenifere Sanwo-Olu back move. I was still talking about the issue of state police, but get that story up on page 6. What you get in the next page 7 is Ramaphosa announces xenophobic attack as more Nigerians, others leave South Africa. Army police reject fresh move to deploy repentant terrorists. It's also a screamer on page 29. But more like a cartoon representation of the leading story for some ex-governors. The journey does not end. It just changes to the National Assembly. And you can understand that's also the lead story on the front page of The Guardian. But anyway, we'll leave it as that, and that's the much you can take from The Guardian. Let's quickly run to the Daily Sun to see what the Daily Sun has as a major one on its front page. And on the Daily Sun this morning, the lead story reads, State Police Bill, pressure shift to state legislators as stakeholders expert demand early passage of bill by 2/3 of State House of Assembly to complete constitutional amendment. And Conference of Speakers pledge thorough review. But I'll tell you to review that story up on page 7, do also on page 9, and as much as you can get the final one on page 25. But anyway, let's see if we take some other leading one. We'll see on the front page of the Daily Sun this morning. IPOB raises Kalu's conviction at U.S. Civil Society Forum. Is on page 26. CBN initiates crackdown on terrorism suspect to freeze account of terror financiers and BDC operators. Others bank to freeze account of customers linked to Vice. And like I said, get that story up on page 2. We can see get other stories if we can. Okay, it's more like a picture of the day and that sad one that played out in Oriede, local government area of Lagos, and when we had a three-story building shopping complex in Alakija collapse, and we heard a young baby was among those that lost their life. Quite sad and quite disturbing. But that's the picture of the day on the Daily Sun. And but let's see if we take some other leading stories still on the front page of the Daily Sun. And before we wrap things up, and on the Daily Sun also, telcos under pressure as consumers' anger grows over rapid data depletion and drop calls is on page 25. Oba of Benin constitute traditional security networks to tackle banditry in Edo is on page 26. NECO releases 2026 BECE results, and you can get more of that on page 25. But what you get on page 6, and like I said, the picture of the day, 8 died, 26 rescued in Lagos building collapse. And I told you, that's even the scene you can see right there on the picture of the day. But that's the much you can take from the Daily Sun. Let's quickly run to the Daily Trust. And on the Daily Trust this morning, 7 residents, 2 cops killed in Castina, Kaduna. I was still talking about the reign of terror. And well, indeed, quite disturbing. Every week we seem to be having a large number of Nigerians being killed. And we know that attack happened in Mutazu local government area of Castina State. And that was where it happened, bandit attack. But I'll tell you to get that story up on page 3. 8 died, 26 rescued in Lagos building collapse. It's also a sad reminder on page 10. Motorists demand cheaper petrol as crude prices fall. Yeah, we learned that the price of crude has fallen deep down to almost $93 per barrel, and everybody expecting that to also transform or transcend to our pumping fuel filling stations. Let them see how they can sell petrol for less, because we know as it stands now, petrol is being sold for 1,270 naira per liter, but more price reduction needs to be effected. But I'll tell you to get that story up on page 5. 2027, JGA's 6th amendment to Electoral Act is also a reminder on page 4. But let's see if we take some other leading stories still on the front page of, the Daily Trust. I would seem not to have more, but only a picture representation of the 7 years in office of no other person but Babangana Zulum. And while you do know this is centered more on water resources and the environment, and it has 17 mega projects that was done within the span of 7 years. Well, anyway, congratulations to him. Many said he's really doing well, but anyway, the picture there is for you to look, assess, and indeed see whether he's doing a lot. But that's the much you can take from the daily from the Daily Trust. Let's go on to the Nation newspaper and see if the Nation has more. CBN order freeze of account linked to terrorism financier. Remember, I promised we'll be looking at this critically later on Dialogue. 6 individuals, 4 firms identify bank to comply with immediate effect. And like I said, all fund assets and other economic resources belonging to owned, held, or controlled directly or indirectly by the suspect are frozen. But anyway, don't freeze up on that gist only on the front page. You can get more of that juicy gist on the Nation newspaper, and I will implore you to go and read it up on or continue on page 2 of the Nation newspaper. Let's see if we take some other leading stories still on the front page of the Nation. State Assembly is ready to okay state police bill is a reminder on page 8. Pressure on marketers to cut petrol pump price is also a reminder on page 8. Tinubu reassures on Erire as Oyo extend curfew. Remember, almost 10 local governments are having almost a 48-hour curfew or 12 hours in between. And well, anyways, it looks as if the Nation is taking a cue from Daily Trust, and you can just get word that seems to be there is no other but the performance of Babangana Zulum, the Borno State governor. And you can see his 7 years in office, and he's also attributing all he has done, or rather assessing all he has done as it concerns water resources and environment. 17 major projects, like I stated earlier. But that's the much you can take from the Nation. Let's quickly run to the Vanguard, which will be the last paper for us to really look at. And on the Vanguard this morning, the lead story reads, our worries on state police by parties and other stakeholders. A whole lot of riders seem to be following that major story. Funding crutch abused by governors, thugs in uniform top concern. XCP warns many states can't pay salaries, expose structure to raw corruption. And Labour Party will ban and demand iron Claude legislative firewalls, and Sawan Olu Hills Epi Child a shift as PRP, NNPP, CUPP flee Tinubu's alleged hasty reforms. Political parties, legal heavyweights raise alarm over 2027 polls, and Senator Arise seeks tight legislative checks to indeed deal with the issue of state police. Weak local government may sink entire projects, and this is according to experts. But I'll expect you to get more of that gist on page 5. Let's see if we see take-home leading story still on the front page of the Vanguard, the last paper for us to look at today. Federal government to review 70,000 naira minimum wage. This is according to Bajabia Mila, and he represented Mr. President during the Worker United Forum, and you can get that on page 13. Marketers retain high petrol price as crude oil crashes to pre-war level. Crude now $72 per barrel. Wow, that's beautiful. And Dangote refinery reduced gantry price to 1,125 naira per liter. But I'll tell you not to leave that story, but read more of it on page 19. Nigeria will witness monumental development with correct tax system. I'm not saying that, so don't come and press me. Oyedele, the finance minister's team, to be giving us that story up on page 20. And xenophobia, federal government repatriate 66 more Nigerians from South Africa. Is more of a glaring one on page 9. Terrorism financier, federal government moves to charge US-sanctioned BDC operators. CAF freezes accounts of Adamu, Sheruma, and 4 others, and 1 BEDC on page 9. Venezuela twin quakes kill at least 164, with many trapped under rubble. This is major one on page 9. Lagos mall collapse. Baby girl, I remember I told you, 8 others feared dead as 26 rescued. A sad reality. But let's go to the Mr. and Mrs. column. I always like going there to really just calm things a bit down. We need to have a humor part of it. And as usual, women will always have the first shot. I have to do the dishes, the laundry, take care of the baby, cook, etc. That's the danger in marrying a mechanical engineer. They always see you as a machine. Well, anyway, she might not be wrong. And Mr. has to say, sorry, dear, I'm ready to service you. Sorry, I mean, make it up to you. Well, anyway, mechanical and servicing. Well, anyway, I wonder where we'll be servicing. But the picture of the day is that of another batch of our 66 Nigerians evacuated from South Africa with the immigration and NEDCO officials after arrival at the Murtala Mohammed Airport in Lagos. And we're happy they're back home. And well, let's see how that plays out. But that's the much you can take from the dailies put together. Like I said, 6 papers is what we do X-rayed in. We did The Guardian, The Punch, The Vanguard, as well as Daily Trust, Daily Sun, and The Nation. And all really had major headlines on their front page. But I implore you, if you find any really juicy to do, why not go grab a copy of the dailies and read them up and get more information? But I'll tell you, don't do that now. Just stick around, still remain with us, because dialogue will come next right here on Viewpoint on Atlantic TV.